TK, how are you?
I am good, but not as excited as you are. No migraine today for the loogie.
Yes, for those of you that didn't know, I played hurt yesterday. I had a headache the entire time. I had 2 coffees. I had a C4. I had a hot shower. I ate 3 rounds of Excedrin. Nothing worked. The headache finally went away at 12 o'clock. But I'm feeling great today, and I got to tell you, I haven't said this much in my life, but I'm feeling a hell of a lot better than Yankee fans. Because if I was a Yankee fan right now, I would be in absolute full-blown panic mode. Because believe it or not, we are sitting here right now where they are down in Tampa, and if they get swept by the Rays, they can kiss the division goodbye.
It is blood in the water. Blood. If you are Tampa, if you are the players on Tampa, and you're 6 games back, 6 of the Yankees' next 10 games are against Tampa, 3 in Tampa, 3 here in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. You're like, yeah, let's just take the division from them right now. They are down bad. They are losing games against teams that are historically bad on their West Coast trip.
Teams that just stink. They shouldn't be losing series to the A's or the Angels.
That was the cupcake games. Those were the cupcake series for you. Now, the schedule for the next 32 games, 20 against winning teams. 20 games. And then 6 of those other 12 games are against the Red Sox, which you know are never any slouch.
Yep. And the Rays are pesky, and they give the Yankees all kinds of problems. And this is a Yankee team now that might not have Rizzo all weekend with the bad back.
Yeah.
And Rizzo has been the Yankees' second best hitter behind Judge. So basically now you're sitting there with Judge, and maybe Peraza gives you a boost. But Judge has carried this team, and Rizzo's been the second most reliable hitter. And this is a Yankee team, and we've seen it time and time and time again. They have no guts. Period. Stop. They have no guts. They get punked out by the Astros. They get punked out by the Red Sox, and they get punked out by the Rays. And they look like world beaters early in the year, and they are in an absolute total free fall right now.
I mean, they're front runners. Let's be honest. The Yankees, what we are seeing from them are that they are front runners, that when they are 15 and a half games above everyone else, they've got no stress, no pressure, nothing. That's when the bats are firing. That's when everything's working. That's when the pitching looks amazing. That's when you have, I don't know, what they said was going to be the best new closer in baseball with Clay Holmes. And then a little bit of pressure starts to creep in. Lead starts to shrink, Tommy. And then soft. Charmin, soft. And I think you can say quite possibly maybe the softest good team in Major League Baseball history.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really strong take. And listen, the fans, I think, would agree with you because this is a team that the fans don't like, period. They don't like the manager. They don't like the general manager. They don't like the players. And they had to shut up early in the year because the team was world beaters. But now that they've fallen flat on their face and the manager went out there and slammed the table, it did nothing other than beat the Mets twice. They have done nothing. They have not responded. And this team doesn't respond. And now you're in a situation where if they somehow drop the division, get bounced in the wild card, Yankee fans will be beside themselves because the start they got off to, and then if somehow Judge leaves and the Mets are somehow in the World Series or win the World Series, heaven forbid, that will be, the Yankee fan will be crying all day long.
It's blood in the streets.
That's it.
It's blood in the streets right now. If I am a Yankee fan, you have to say to yourself, the question also is, how can this team be filled with nice guys and also simultaneously not be very likable? Like, there's no dog on this team.
Yeah, I mean...
That's why they brought in Donaldson.
Exactly, and he's been a dog at the plate, frankly. And he gives you that
like
rah-rah stuff. Correct. And he's lost, and the entire lineup's lost, like I said, outside of Judge, who's having a historic season. And now, potentially no Rizzo. And look, maybe you get a little something from Peraza, and maybe somehow they wake up. But this Tampa team is pesky, and they give them problems. And again, if you get swept, the division is over. You're done. This is it. Because you are now going to continue your free fall. Now, Herman's been great. He's on the bump tonight. He's pitched very, very well. We'll see what he can do. But the Rays are going to give them problems. And if I was a Yankee fan sitting here right now, I would be in full-blown panic mode because somehow, some way, Labor Day weekend, I have a monster series with the Rays. You could forget about the Astros in the 1 seed. That's over. You're never catching Houston. Now you got to worry about the division? Unbelievable.
Oh, it's one of those things where you have to wonder, how did we get here? And dissect what this team is doing and why they won't wake up. to me, if you want to dissect it, I think you can say, all right, well, that's why they got Donaldson. Donaldson was supposed to be the dog. He was supposed to inject. They even said that. We want an a-hole on this team. That's not the same thing. You can be an a-hole. I'm not going into battle with Donaldson. He's the fakest. I said this yesterday. He's the fakest tough guy. Listen, guys like Altuve, that's a dog. Like Correa, that's a dog.
I like what you're saying right now.
Yasmani Grandal, that's a dog.
Yeah.
Like, do you think Higgy or Trevino, if the tables were turned, right, and something happened with the White Sox where you're like not allowed, do you think Higgy or Trevino's not going to let a guy into the batter's box like Grandal did to Donaldson after what happened with him and Tim Anderson?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and listen, the Yankee fan who prides themselves on being New York City, the Bronx, tough, right?
Tough.
And they want that team
Built
to mirror
different.
it. Exactly. And to match the team from the 90s who never gave up, who showed that toughness. And this team, time and time and time again, has not showed that toughness. And Yankee fans want to see that out of them, and they're not seeing it. And now this team looks like, and I don't want to hear, oh, well, you know, they're playing around and they had this huge lead. That's over. Because now the division is hanging by a thread, and you get swept out of Tampa, it's over. So will the Yankees bring it? Do they have the guts to actually go out there and beat the Rays? I say no. What about you?
It's like, wake up. No, I don't. I've been saying this probably all year. There was 1 week where I was like, okay, this team's finding ways to win. They're manufacturing runs. Their bats are hot. When they're not hot, the starting pitching and the closing is picking them up. All that's gone now. So now you have mediocre to decent pitching, no closer, bullpen's fallen off, and the bats are cold. And they just seem to not care. Like stone-faced. Anytime there's a bad call from the umpire, there's no broken bats. There's no look of frustration. There's nothing. There's just stone-faced. And I think a lot of that might be from, comes from top down. Aaron Boone's a nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Like he pounds the table and everybody's like, oh, Aaron Boone pounded the table.
I know. Very out of character.
Like, very out of character. Nice guy. Anytime something goes wrong, steady Eddie. We don't need steady Eddie right now. The panic button is being hit, Tommy. Panic. Wee-oo, wee-oo. It's time to have some urgency.
And listen, I get it could be on Boone, but he slammed the table. And it's not all about Aaron Boone. It's about the players.
No.
It's about the players looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? Not on our watch. We're not going to have a collapse here, because that's what this is. We're not going to have an epic meltdown collapse and potentially lose our superstar player, and the franchise is in disarray. We can't have that. So they got to figure out a way, and they haven't been able to do that. So they got to look in the mirror and go, you know what? We're the freaking New York Yankees, and we got to start acting like it. Now, good luck, because outside of Judge, nobody seems to buy a freaking hit. They're a mess in the field. Garrett Cole does just enough to lose. The closer situation's a mess, and they got to somehow figure it out. And they got the Rays, who are a thorn in their side.
Well, and the Rays, you can tell, are just, they're the ones nipping on their heels, right? We thought maybe that would be the Blue Jays. But no, the Rays have proven to be very pesky as well. We can tell that these 3 games are going to be very low scoring, which does not really bode well, I think, for the Yankees. Bats going cold. And Domingo Germán, like you said, has been pretty good.
Yeah, yes.
And to me, the fact that he's the one starting the series solidifies that there's a lot of faith in him and not as much faith in the rest of the guys.
Yeah, it's a huge game one, because if you take one game, you're right.
Yep.
You just got to avoid getting swept. So this game one sets the tone. And Tampa is a team that everybody loves to write off because of the way they play. Nobody's heard of anybody on the team. Obviously, people have. But the casual guy and gal sitting there doesn't know anybody on the Rays.
If you go to, like, I don't know, just some random bar and you're like, hey, do you know G-Man Choi?
They're like, no.
Who's that? Bok Choi.
And they play in an absolute dump and an embarrassment to baseball. It's a joke. They play in a joke stadium, all right? Nobody knows who they are. They start 47 different pitchers. They have 97,000 guys pitching throughout a game. But every year you look up, and the Rays figure it out, and the Yankees can't. And right now, you are in an absolute must-win scenario here. And we're not overstating it, because the Yankees are in an absolute free fall, and they going down to Tampa in a must-win series, and if they get swept, the division is over.
So if you look at the rankings, right? Like if I'm talking about soft teams in history.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about this. Like, is that just a crazy take for me to say this team maybe the most soft, good team in Major League Baseball history? Look at the Seattle Mariners, for example. Historically soft team. Bunch of really nice guys, kind of like this team. No real dogs. Didn't get mad when they had a bad call. They won 116 games. They lost 4-1 in the ALCS in 2001.
Yep.
Just loaded, very soft. Historically, another soft team, Braves. 14 consecutive NL East titles, 90s and the 2000s. And what? One World Series. Who does that sound like? That sounds like the Yankees. So Mariners plus Braves, kind of equal Yankees. Then you've got the Dodgers. 2004 to 2019, they make the playoffs 11 times. They lose every single time. And you know what? They've got a pitcher problem. It's playoff Kershaw. The fan base knows that something happens with Kershaw in the playoffs. Are the Yankees, 2022 Yankees, the combination of the Mariners, the Braves, and the Dodgers all into one team? Because they've got shades of all three.
No doubt, and it's self-fulfilling for the fans because, like I said, going into the year, the fans hated the offseason. They didn't want Boone back. They didn't want Cashman back. And like I said, they had to shut up because the team got off to such a great start. But now they are basically the team that the fan base feared going into the season. 877-337-6666. Let's head out to Westchester. Dave, you're on the Fan. Dave, what's happening, bro?
Hey, Louis, Krista, thank you for taking my call.
Yep.
If Lou Piniella was the manager, he'd be foaming at the mouth.
Yeah,
There's no sense of listen, I'm tired of hearing these guys saying it's a marathon. Guess what? You're in the 20th mile. Where's the afterburner?
No, Dave, it's a sprint now. The marathon is over. Now it's a sprint. Right. Now you're up 6 on the Rays, and they're coming. So that's what's happening.
You're that runner from Ethiopia that's doing a 5-minute mile. That's what Tampa. They're doing a 5-minute mile through Central Park, and guess what? The Yankees are doing a 9-minute mile.
Dave, as a Yankee fan, what's your confidence level going into this weekend, and what's your temperature on this team right now?
Listen, I worked in the clubhouse as a kid with Luka Kuza, and let me explain to you. I used to get pumped up being around the Yankees in the 70s. My confidence level, it's almost like bad destiny. I feel like Luke Skywalker fighting Darth Vader. It's not by accident. They're back 6 games, and they're playing them 6 games.
Yeah,
it's almost like destiny being. My confidence is 0.
Yep, and that's it. 0. First caller out of the day, his confidence level is 0.
And if you are a Yankee fan and if this Yankees team doesn't win the division and they end up in a wild card spot, like that's just an unmitigated disaster.
No doubt. It's a massive failure. And if they get bounced in the wild card round, Yankee fans will want heads to roll. No doubt about it. Because they've wanted change for a while and they haven't gotten it. And they didn't like what the moves made in the offseason. They didn't like the trade deadline moves. And now this team has completely fallen flat on its face. Bayside, Steve, what's up, dude?
What's going on? This team has now played more below 500 baseball than they have when they had the amazing start, the first really 2+ months of the season when they got out to the huge lead. And by the way, in both instances, on both ends of that, a lot of one-run games. They won a lot of one-run games early, and they're losing a lot of one-run games now. The thing is that with Cashman, if he was to have done nothing at the trade deadline, I would submit to you that this team would be better right now. And fans don't want to hear that at the time.
Because of Monty?
You have to do something. You have to fix the problems. But outside of Trevino, every one of these guys has been mediocre. Even Benintendi.
Yeah, he's been bad.
Gone back to being, he went back to being the Benintendi from before Kansas City. Montes, and I didn't like that trade at the time.
Steve,
has been terrible.
Steve, so you think, just to really redline this, you think this team with Monty, no Benintendi, and Gallo on it is a better team than this current construction right now?
Look, Gallo, you could have DFA'd.
Yeah, you could have just dumped him. Yep.
You could have finally called up. I'm glad to see that they're finally calling up some of these kids.
Yep.
Don't forget, in the offseason, everyone was killing Brian Cashman for doing too little, and then the team got off to the amazing start.
Yep.
Well, you know what? He probably should have taken that advice, taken the lesson from the offseason and done nothing at this trade deadline. By the way, J.P. Sears is pitching terrific. It's not just Monty. They would have, the team... Mm-hmm. If you want to believe in chemistry or whatever you want to say, the team would have been better up. The guys that they brought in have not performed, and it's not jumping the gun because it's a month into it. When you make a trade deadline deal, you're hoping to get an immediate return.
Yeah, no, Steven, they didn't get that. And, I had to sit here and people were telling me that Benintendi, this is before they made the trade, that he was going to be a game changer, and I said he's not. It's Benintendi. Soto was a game changer. Castillo would have been a game changer. Benintendi was not a game changer. And from the small ball brigade that likes guys that hit the other way and he hit 300 and all this, the guy is not delivered. And maybe he will, but he hasn't yet. And he hasn't been a game changer.
What makes us think that he's going to? Just because he won a World Series?
Yeah, just history. He's having a good year. He's been in big games before.
But
That's
it's
the
not
idea.
In New York. You've been
Boston.
in big games. Boston fans, I know that they are electric as well, but it's just New York is just different.
It is, and we saw that with Jason Bay, who was basically an MVP in Boston, and he came to the Mets and was in witness protection. I mean, one of the worst moves they've ever made in the history. Let's go down to, not down to, let's go over to Jersey. Tony, you're on the fan. What's up, dude?
Hey, you looking for Tony?
Yeah.
I am. Did I find him?
Yeah, listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here. Listen, you guys were talking about Boone and being soft. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Boone, but you can't think he's almost a bit of a crybaby. He's always out there. He's always yapping at the umpires. He's always barking at them for making calls. We're monsters in the box or whatever the hell he had said years ago.
Yeah, savages in the box.
Savages in the box. You can't tell me that he's soft. You certainly can make a very good argument that Cashman had his head up places that we can't talk about.
Yeah, I got you.
But I don't prescribe to the people that say that the Yankees are soft. In their last 10 to 15 years, they've just been a business team. They haven't been that gritty team.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that's kind of the same thing, right? Like you want to, if you don't want to say soft and you want a synonym to soft, I would say lacking in dogs, lacking in guys who have that grit and that fire, who want it, right? Like Jorge Posada was a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jeter, dog. Like who is that on this team?
Yeah, it's tough to find one. And again, you look around at teams like the Astros and the Red Sox.
Who are, by the way, not only filled with dogs right now, all of the guys that I can name that are current dogs are former Astros. Springer,
Yep.
Correa, dogs.
Yep, and they own the Yankees, and they're in their head, and they've won the most important game there is, and that's the mental game, because the Stros don't fear the Yankees at all. At all. Cole, Judge, Boone, they don't care. They've won that game. They got the swag, and the Yankees don't. And forget about the Astros right now because you're not going to catch them. And good luck if you somehow, some way find your way to a Game 7 in Houston with Cole on the mound. Yeah.
And if you think that Aaron Boone, who's chirping at umpires, is like that means he's a dog, like he's a super nice guy.
The best.
Like, he's
Salt
the
of
best.
the earth. Yeah.
That's the reason that he is so beloved. He doesn't. That dog is not there just because he's been chirping at a referee or an ump.
Yeah, and it's about the players. And I understand Buck's done a lot for the Mets this year, and Boone gets a lot of crap. But at the end of the day, the players have to perform, and the players aren't. Brian's got a good point here. He's in Middletown. We're going to get him on right now. Brian, what's up?
My question is basically, all I keep hearing about, we've fallen apart over the last couple of months. Everybody's talking about Giancarlo Stanton's injury. Nobody talks about Matt Carpenter.
No, it's a great point.
Why is nobody talking about it?
I don't know. He somehow
understand.
people have forgotten, because you're right. Carpenter was basically a guy who was like emailing teams, and Cashman's the only one that responded. He came on and he somehow found his all-star ways, and he was great. And he gave that lefty bat, and he was hitting home runs.
Yeah.
And the team played really well, and he went down. And you're right. It's been a huge, huge deal. Everybody's focused on Stanton, but losing Matt Carpenter, you're right, was an enormous thing.
I listen every day. Nobody talks about it.
I don't get it. Well, Evan loves him, so I'm sure he's mentioned him 4 or 5 times a day. But,
And he had a better OPS than Judge when he went down.
yeah, he
which
was
is
having
nuts.
an unbelievable string. And again, a guy that was a great player in his day, fallen off, was basically knocking on GM's doors to get a job. The Yankees answered. They plugged him into a lineup, a team that was already playing well, and he was off the charts great. And he got hurt, and the team has suffered greatly since.
And a very freak injury, too.
No doubt.
Just like, whoa.
Yep. And injuries happen. It's part of the game. And the other guys have to pick it up, and they haven't. Whether it be IKF, whether it be Donaldson, Torres. You could go down the list. Outside of Judge, and like I said, Rizzo, nobody's really been able to answer the bell. Tommy Lugauer, Trista Crick, filling in for Carton and Roberts. The boys are back Tuesday. We're going all the way to Yankees Pre at 6:30. 877-337-6666. That's the number to jump on. Yankee fans, are you panicking? This is a monster series. We want to get your thoughts. We'll get into the Mets a little bit later. We got some football stuff coming up.